Hey Jay, you can hear me clear? Cool, cool.
Huh? Oh, see, baby, what's she doing? What my girl doing? She's probably just being a kid. The baby being a baby.
Okay. Checky. Where'd that go? Oh fuck. Wait. I love technology. All right. Check. All right. We're good to go. Keep the title belt in the picture. All right. Welcome to episode 4 of Behind the Booth. I am your ever gracious and humble host, Spin Griffey. I am joined by an esteemed panel this fine evening. Above me, got the people's champ, DJ D-Will. Only San Diego Chargers. I'm sorry, Los Angeles Chargers fan. I know, man. One of my homies, man, since forever, man. Going on, got to be like over 15 years, huh?
Yeah, man, but like
16,
16.
17 years?
Cause look, Friday actually makes 17 years since I've been down here, so on the
Yeah,
22nd.
so it's probably from the jump. Uh, so the way I got to do this is to my upper left, the people's favorite, the girl's girl, and some of the girls, DJ Legatron Prime. Please say the Prime. Please.
Please say the prime. Do not
Please
forget the prime.
say the
It's
Prime,
like a
okay?
pimp named Slickback. You gotta say the whole thing.
With the backhand,
Yeah, man.
huh?
Okay. And to my, what's this, left? Yes. So, well, on screen, it's my left. Oh, Fred, you got to come up some. You ain't in the picture, baby. But we got DJ Fred in the building.
What's
What?
good? Y'all can see me? You can see me?
Well, we see your
Hey.
chest. Oh, you know what? That's on me. That's on me. I was like, I'm blaming you. That's on. There we go. That's on the production
All
staff,
good,
man.
all good, all good.
We got to
What's
fire.
good,
Good
Johnny?
help is so hard to find these days, man. It's crazy. There we go. All right, man. It's crazy when you are the help, though. All right, man. So we got about an hour. I ain't gonna hold y'all. This week we are discussing basically because everybody on the call does this. Um, going the beginning topic really is going from how you started in clubs and transitioning into I know mostly especially for D Will as weddings and then with Legatron and Fred as well into corporate events, right? So I guess the first question I want to ask everybody kind of is how long were you in the clubs? And yeah, let's just kind of start there. Like, what kind of vibes were your club vibes?
I guess I'll start first. Mine is a little unique, right? So my background, I actually started out 21, 22 years ago in the wedding scene back home in Dallas. And so fast forward when I moved to New Orleans, of course, didn't know anybody here, so I had to make my way. And then So I jumped right into clubs, the bar scene, uptown, and then pretty much held residency to every major nightclub in New Orleans, and worked with MTV and everything. And so I played everything. I dabbled and dabbled with all different, demographics, so it allowed me to be very versatile. But then fast forward to about like, so that was 2029, 29, um, 09, how you want to call it? And then, so from 2009 to about 2017 is when I really pretty much got out of the nightlife scene. For me, it was too stagnant. Um, Based on what I was doing, and then I just kind of went back to corporate and weddings. So having that club background, radio background, it allowed me to be very different than anybody else in the Southeast region in regards to doing weddings, right? So I was able to separate myself, to bring that club feel to these wedding receptions and to these big corporate events. Um, and then I pretty much stayed in that realm. I do dibble and dabble into the nightlife scene more so on the North Shore, just because that's what I'm more comfortable at doing. Because like, shit, hell, I'm almost 40 at this point. Like, I got a 3-year-old, almost 4. So, shit, been married for 12 years. So it just made more sense for me to just kind of stick in that realm. But also, for those who don't know, I've been in hotels for about like 18 years. So managing hotels, and, that just kind of made more sense for me to have something a little bit more manageable versus committed to something like every weekend from Thursday to Sunday like I used to.
I know that boy in the corporate life because he said Southeast region. That's corporate. That's corporate talk, boy. That boy said the Southeast region. All right, Legatron. Let's
Okay. So I got my start in clubs maybe about 3 years after well, no, like I started full time DJing in 2016. So probably 2017, 17 and maybe 18 is when I landed my first like club residency at the Dragon's Den, RIP.
RIP.
Um, so I did that, and I played like usual club stuff. Because at that point I was going from just doing like like special type gigs, where like people were hiring me for an event or something like that. And then when I got my residency, it kind of opened me up to be a little bit more cohesive with my sound as a DJ. So I want to say I was a little bit open format, but I was still definitely like club vibes. Um, and then I think 2018 is when I started in corporate, when I first did Essence Fest with My Black is Beautiful. And after 2018, I kind of just been, especially like yearly, I would get an Essence gig. Um, and really, how I got my corporate gigs was through either word of mouth or, you know, people coming to see me at other gigs and was interested in seeing how I would do or not how I would do, but want to see me in those corporate spaces. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of how I got into corporate, just by like word of mouth and like having a corporate gig here or a smaller corporate gig there, and just being real nice and friendly with production and the people who are booking me, the production companies and stuff like that, and keeping up a relationship with the people who are booking me in these production companies. So if they leave that company, they'll go to another company, and I'll still be in contact with them, even if they're with another production company. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it for me. How I started, I was doing club music, a little bit open format, but I was at a club slash bar on Friendship Street, so kind of couldn't spread my wings as far as being too open format. Um, and just word them out with corporate gigs and keeping good relationships.
Okay. And what about you, Fred?
So my story is a little bit different. As far as club life, I'm really the rookie on the block. I actually started in corporate. So I started basically growing with a company. I met a guy in college that had a fitness company called Jig Aerobics, and it was pretty much basically like a modern spin on Zumba. So we used like a lot of Louisiana-based music to influence aerobics and get people up and moving. So I started pretty much in corporate through a connection I made in college, and that was about 2 or 3 years ago. And that's really how I grew as a DJ. We did a lot of traveling and things like that, and that's really how I got my name out there. But my name was always associated with Jig Aerobics. So this year in 2025, I found myself trying to grow my brand individually, and that's what really kind of started pulling me to the club scene. Shout out DJ Too Ready. He was the one that got me my first couple of events, and shout out Joe's Blink because that's how I started meeting a lot of other DJs in the city and just trying to plant my roots individually. So I'm really a rookie on the block with the club scene, but I do have a lot of corporate experience thanks to Jig Aerobics and traveling around.
Okay. That was not a paid ad. Fred mentioned Joe's blend of his free will. There was no gun in his head, you know. So I'd ask this, and I guess for Fred, this would be the inverse. And Legs, we can start with you. What would you say the culture shock was as far as going from the clubs to doing corporate gigs?
Oh, that the people you kind of had to be a little bit more buttoned up.
Mm,
Um, it's not in some corporate settings, you're basically just glorified background music. Like they don't really need you to do anything.
right,
And then there's some corporate gigs where they won't turn up. They won't act like they in a club, but with less curse words.
right,
So that's what I had. That was my thing going from the club where, in the club you basically fighting to keep shit going.
mm,
You keeping it. You trying to keep the vibe going, keep the energy up. When sometimes corporate gigs you don't have to do a lot.
right,
You really just don't have to do a lot. And that was a shock for me because it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about like quick mixing and like thinking like 5, 6 songs down the line and doing this and doing that. Trying to keep a crowd you know in and satisfied and drinking and dancing. Corporate gigs are a lot more chill, so it taught me how to kind of like slow down.
okay. And D-Will, I'd ask you the same question. I think mine for you to also go further with that is especially with you doing so many weddings, and I do a lot of weddings as well, and so um, I think people don't realize the prep work that goes into a wedding, especially when you start talking about the amount that wedding DJs charge, and like what you can't just say I charge thousands of dollars and I'm just gonna show up day of and throw this party. So I mean, what for you was the biggest shock going from I guess nightlife to the corporate wedding scene?
I think for me the biggest thing, one of the biggest things was from like my peers, right? Especially a lot of people who know me from New Orleans. A lot of people, they didn't really realize like my background being from like coming from doing weddings and then transition over to the nightlife. So when everybody first met me here, I was in the club scene. So whenever I transitioned over, it was like, well, D Will's not in the nightlife scene. I'm not seeing you on flyers. I'm not seeing you at the clubs and all this. I'm just seeing you posting your reels or your videos, but you're buttoned up all the time, right? And then to kind of piggyback off that, more so like with my clientele, doing a lot of these big weddings from majority of people don't look like me, right? And so whenever I'm having these meetings and stuff, because a lot of times it starts via email, and then when they actually see me face to face via Zoom or Google Meet, they're like, oh, it's this guy, right? And then they realize like I'm doing all these weddings for people who aren't looking like me, right?
All right.
And so um, once and going back, from to Dallas, right where I first started, that was an easy thing. It wasn't like people weren't shocked to see an African American, being able to play your doo wop and your bluegrass, and right, but intertwining it with all the other genres like your hip hop and the classic rock and pop, right? So whenever I came here, people to see that I actually had that skill set. It was mind blowing to a lot of people, but then of course, as years go by, people start, they're attending what is that, I DJ, and then so they're booking me. So now it's not like a shock to them.
All right.
So that was the biggest thing for me.
Okay. And Fred, I would ask you the inverse to that question, coming from corporate to nightlife. And even though you're just beginning, what would you say has like been some of the bigger shocks or differences that you've had to like kind of get through?
Yeah, I feel like, and I wouldn't fully call it a shock because I feel like it's one of them things, but it's still an adjustment as a new DJ. Really, just to fight that Legatron Prime. Let me make sure I get the full thing in. It's the fight. It's the fight. Getting used to the fight, and I'm saying the fight because really all the way around, like coming from corporate events, like it wasn't always a struggle to get paid. Like you get paid on time, you don't really have to hunt people down. Like she said, you don't always have to fight for people attention. It's just different having to kind of fight 24/7 as far as like fighting to get your name out there, fighting to get attention, fighting to make sure you get your money, just all the different aspects that come with DJing is like it really falls on you as a solo DJ. And like I said, because I was really attached with a business, so all the things that come with being solo and individual, just multitasking. Because I'm a person that I really love music, so part of me just want to focus on music, but individually you have to focus on so much more than just that. Like when it comes to marketing and networking and y'all know everything. So
Yeah. Okay. Going back up to you, D-Will. My question would be, because I found it interesting, because I have the same kind of struggle sometimes too, of basically, doing white weddings or like multinational weddings. The weddings that don't, and even some of the corporate events of people that don't look like us. So how is that navigating that space? Like, and I guess I'm sure it's gotten easier now that you've been doing it for so long. Or I mean, I'm not gonna say easier, but it's not as much as it was probably when you first started. So what is that like navigating? Like, did you feel at a time like you had to prove yourself to these clients that you were able to do this, and
Yeah, the for me, like the adjustment, again, I mean, I've been working in hospitality for 20 plus years at this point, right? So the professionalism came with it. It was easy for me to be who I am, right? But I think more so, like the corporate side, that was easy. I never had an issue with doing anything from corporate from all the way back from 2009 up to present day. But from the weddings, I think the biggest thing was more so of me proving myself, because let's be honest, right? In the South, let's just say about 5-7 years ago, a lot of black DJs weren't doing weddings on a major scale, right? You go look at YouTube and TikTok and you see a lot of these big extravagant weddings, but a lot of them don't look like us, right? Nowadays, you see, we have everything. We have, the full production, right? It's all the lights, the monograms, and the full blast, right? So whenever I think once I was able to kind of showcase that, more so like I say 80% of my bookings come from my Instagram, because people they see I don't post videos where it has like background music. It's you seeing what I'm doing live, right? And a lot of clients they want to see that, and so when they do see that, I'm keeping the dance floor packed, and these people don't look like me. You got the grandparents and the aunts and uncles on the dance floor the entire night, and they're like, well, I want that. And so whenever I took the business stamp, side of that from what I've always done, and like implement that on my social media. So I'm like, okay, I have to be able to showcase these things so people can actually see, and it adds more value, right? I'm able to charge a premium, because they see what they get. I don't have to go out and say, oh well, I'm charging this amount, but I don't have anything to show you besides some photos. Here's live footage. Here's actual reviews from these couples, and that's how I'm able to sell myself. But it wasn't easy in the beginning, right? I mean, I had to have numerous of conversations with my wife, who's my manager, about
keep it in the
why I'm
house,
not getting this,
baby.
right? To where like, why am I, having to raise my price? I'm like, well, shit, gas prices going up, egg prices going up, but this, Target, they, and Walmart, they charging, us way more than we was a few years ago. I had to make sure that I'm putting, bringing, bread to the house, right? And there's a lot of times with clients like, oh, well, I can't do it because I'm a budget. I'm fine with that. I understand people have it, but I'm not going to just bow down to do something that's not worth my time going out. And once she was able to understand that, she realized that, okay, this is part of the business, and
Right.
he, I worked hard to get to this point. And it's shit, the new administration in office right now, it ain't been easy this year because a lot of people they hurt their pockets hurt, right? They want to have these big extravagant corporate events or weddings, but they don't have the funds to do so. Um, so I had to make those adjustments.
Okay. Um, Legs, I would ask you, particularly in because I know you're not like the biggest wedding fan or doing them. So when it comes to corporate events, what is it that? Because I mean, your brand is like, um, I mean, black woman, strong black woman. I just happen to be a DJ as well, you know.
I wouldn't say strong black
Well,
woman.
not strong black, but it's still. I mean, you know, that's kind of like a part of like, you know, it's not the brand, but it's a part of it. So, what is it? Because I'm sure you get it up for a lot of things. So what is it like? And have there been times to where you've had to turn things down because it hasn't aligned with like your brand as a DJ? And is it? Do you feel like the black woman aspect of it makes some of these things a little bit harder?
Um, so I would say when I have booked corporate gigs, my race doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I think well, it's a plus.
Right.
And I think that's across the board with a lot of events that they want to they want to see women in these spaces
Mm-hmm.
DJing, and it's just sugar like the cherry on top that I'm a black woman and I do all of these things and I'm multi-talented and I wear all of these hats.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that, and from a brand standpoint, that's really what it is being a multi hyphenate creative. That happens to be a black woman. Um, so I haven't ran into anything like on a corporate scale or really anywhere else that me being a black woman like kind of held me back,
Mm-hmm.
thank God. But I know in the climate that we're in, it might happen. You never know. Um, but I will say I've turned down a lot of gigs that wasn't aligning within my journey and within my growth. Like there was one point I was doing like poetry shows and like open mics, and then I was doing like like live shows and stuff like that, like live like local shows. I would be the DJ, dealing with artists and playing their music so they can perform. And then I started to grow and pivot, and so I stopped turning down a lot of things that didn't align with where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I continue to take the same gigs gonna keep coming, and eventually I'm gonna start feeling stuck and unfulfilled and just not liking what I do, and I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go to every set that I do and absolutely love it
Mm-hmm.
and want it to align with me and my brand. So when I get those looks, like if I want to do a certain type of uh, deal with certain type of clientele, then I have to start taking like those type of gigs that I get for
Absolutely.
that clientele, and then I will get more of that clientele.
Right.
So yeah, I would say that I've definitely like turned down gigs that did not really align with where I was
Mm-hmm.
as a DJ and where I wanted to go as a DJ.
Okay, and so Fred, this is another question that kind of be flipped for you. What is it? Because you know, and it's crazy that Legs mentioned this, like the poetry nights and the open mics. That's and D will probably remember this too. That's kind of where you get your stripes as a beginning DJ.
Literally, that is where you get that's where you get your stripes.
A buck.
Yes.
Shit, I was doing Peaches Records Saturday and Sunday for free.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. So I think, Fred. So as you're moving more into the nightlife, are you kind of just taking everything at this point to kind of feel out what it is that you do and don't want to go do and don't want to do,
Yeah.
or do you kind of already have that idea and you just taking gigs that align with it?
Kind of a balance. I realize the better DJs, the more successful DJs are real intentional in what they do. So I'm trying to make sure I'm strong and confident in my vision so I can be intentional in my selection, but I'm also in a state of earning my stripes.
Mm,
So I'm also have that feeling of like, I just need you to hear me.
mm.
Like, I don't care if it is at an open mic. I don't care if it is at a karaoke. I don't care if
Hmm.
it is 5 people in the building. Like my motto right now is big or small, we rock them all. Like, I just need you to hear me. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
so like
Exactly.
from that standpoint, yeah, I am kind of accepting everything, but I do have the mindset of drifting into a more intentional direction when I'm capable of doing that.
Okay. I want to double back to a conversation I had with some friends last week where we were discussing the so there's been an influx of people who I wouldn't consider like DJs, kind of, like it's not their full time. They just happen to get some of these gigs, and a lot of these gigs come with like big looks. And that's just because maybe their primary job or whatever just puts them in close proximity to some of these people, um, and it allows them to get to some of these looks. But the problem that sometimes I see is that because they have a primary job, the DJing thing is kind of something they consider a hobby. So they'll do it for the look, and they'll accept less, which hurts the market on average for everybody else who does this, like I guess professionally and full time. So I mean, I guess it's kind of like, do you have any thoughts on that? Because I mean, it's nothing new, but I think it's kind of been something, especially with the rise of social media, that you kind of it's like a pipeline from maybe they had one thing they were trying to do and that didn't work well, so then they're like, oh shit, I'll just go grab a board and record a fake mix and post it online, and they get like thousands of views, and maybe the real DJs at home like, well man, I do that, that ain't impressive. And not to say it's not impressive, but it's like it's basic,
Or
and
like a small moment they had,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, and it's kind of like this thing of like trying to create, like, you're creating a viral moment, but the viral moment is like 30 seconds, and if somebody's booking you to rock a 4 hour party, like, you still got another 3 hours 59 minutes and 30 seconds to do something.
Right.
So I guess just overall like feelings on that, because like I said, this is nothing new, it's been happening for a while. I think like everything else, as we got older with social media, is just putting it more at the forefront of everything.
I mean, I think you hit it right on the nail when you said the social media, right? Because again, the viral moment. A lot of these, these clients that are booking these individuals, they don't really know, especially when they're coming from out of state.
Right.
They're not really here in the market to see who's who. They don't take the time, so they're just pretty much, hey, I got a deadline, I need to get somebody booked, and let me go on TikTok. All right, let me go look at somebody's reel. This person has 100,000 views off this one reel, but they're not taking time to look at the rest of their content, right? And then they're not looking at the established DJs, who have put in the work and who actually have a true skill set that can actually bring their event to the next level.
Mm.
And I think for myself, right, my primary job is I'm assistant director, assistant general manager at Hotel Peter and Paul, all right? But I've always made sure I put DJing right there as well. DJing has never been a hobby for me. It's a true passion. It is a business that I've ran.
Gotta be a
So
passion if you're using tractor.
and being killing it ever since.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
But no, like for someone who does have a full time job and career, right, and but still stand in that realm of DJing, I feel like it is a slap in the face whenever you see those individuals who pretty much just had their grandparents' money and was able to get this controller and this laptop and
Mm.
say, "Hey, I got." Now it's streaming. I don't have to, go pay for the
Oh,
music itself.
you don't
Now,
even really need grandparents' money no more. You can get an entry board at like 250.
Yeah, you can get a board for like $300.
Yeah.
yeah, but to say all that, right? It's just like now they have their friends, and they had that one little moment, and they at the living room or at some event that they got booked for, all right? And now they're getting these big corporate events, getting paid top dollar. Or on the flip side, they're doing it for a cheaper amount.
Mm.
And so whenever you do have an established DJ and they're like, hey, no, this is what my budget is, I can't do it for X, Y, and Z, and they turn their head and go the other way, and then You don't even hear about the details or of that event because it probably was a flop, and they end up realizing that they end up getting someone who couldn't provide what they were truly looking for.
Right.
Hmm.
And I've definitely seen something that like you were speaking on with the out of town promoters, especially when like they're not they're I mean, it seems in general they're not tapped into like these markets. They're throwing these touring events in, and so all they're really doing is like going off follower counts. And like follower counts, and maybe they see one viral video, and then next thing you know, it's like, ooh, that's who I need to get tapped in with. And
Yeah,
I mean, I think again, like you said, it's just kind of very, I don't know, man. It just seems like, especially if you're throwing this grand production, you kind of want to put some thought and effort into the people you're booking for these stages. But anyway, legs, your thoughts on it?
I mean, I feel like people are just not trying to get their stripes. They just really want a viral moment, or I feel like they just really not trying to get their stripes, and then they're not doing it with any intention behind it. Um, because there's a difference between you wanting to be a DJ and you actually being a DJ.
All right,
And a lot of these people, like y'all said, like they get booked off of the off of 30 seconds, a 30-second video or something like that that then went viral on TikTok or Instagram, and they're getting booked for gigs that they're not necessarily ready for. They're not developed enough for. Um and I think we lose a lot of value in what a DJ actually is and how important being a DJ is, especially a good DJ. We lose the value of the DJ when people are allowed to do half the work but get all the praise.
right.
Because all of us at some point we have taken less to get more,
Mm-hmm.
but once we got to the more, we could provide, and it made sense. It makes sense for us to get paid those amounts because we already have that background, and we know how to DJ for 4 hours. We don't need to have somebody open for us and we the closer. Like we got it,
Right.
but I just think that the people who are all of a sudden wanting to DJ and really getting these looks, but not really taking the steps to actually become like a DJ, it just kind of cheapens the brand of us because we're all very talented. We have so many talented DJs who deserve it, and people's lanes are their lanes. I'm not gonna say that somebody don't deserve like a look, but I am saying that there are people who are ready, prepared, have been ready and prepared, who can do the job, um, and you'll be satisfied.
Right. Fred.
Um,
Oh, I.
but somebody who's coming in, you throwing like they're not really serious about it. They just want a viral moment, or it looks cool to DJ, or they think it's so easy, or whatever, and they leave the client unsatisfied, and then it also cheapens our market too.
Right.
Because if if you come to me and I'm telling you my rate, and you're like, no, because you're gonna find somebody who can do it for 150, $200, like it just cheapens the brand of what a DJ really is and how important we are to entertainment, music in general.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the other things is like, especially when you start dealing, you start getting into like these bigger named venues and stuff like that. Like when it's somebody who's like ill prepared to be on that type of stage,
Hmm.
um, and this applies to like corporate stuff and like even with weddings sometimes, like when they're taking these big events because the money is there,
hmm
like especially if you're dealing with like a planner or something or a venue or something like that, they'll turn around and be like, well shit, if that's what this money gets us for like a DJ, I might do better just spending that extra 1 or 2 thousand and hiring a band. And so it's cutting
Right.
opportunities out for the people who are actually, putting the work and the dedication and time behind it. But I don't know. I mean, Fred, you got anything you want to add to it?
I was just thinking about how I feel like as a relatively new DJ, I find myself trying to separate myself from people like that
Mm-hmm.
because I
Hmm.
feel like it's often easy for me to get confused with somebody like that, being that I am a newer DJ. Is like I feel like people trying to get a feel for me if I'm just searching for the viral moment or if I genuinely do love what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just look at it kind of with a long term lens, and I'm saying that to say, just like good music gonna outlast the trash music. So I feel
Right.
like people that genuinely want to do it, it'll show itself over time. Like y'all saying, like they'll
Mm-hmm.
get the big opportunities, but if you don't capitalize off it, you might not get too many calls backs.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it pretty long term, just because I feel like I do genuinely care, and I feel like over time people see that, and I feel like that's just the same across the board. Like people might have their moments and it might come and go, but I feel like sometimes you just gotta wait for things to slow cook. The things that slow cook come out a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then crack
Absolutely.
clack.
I guess this would more be so towards D-Will and Legs. When especially me and D-Will started like the uh and when Legs started too, there were like so many different venues for nightlife, right?
Yeah.
And as the years have progressed, uh it seems like the nightlife venues have shrank a lot to where it's not even like really a lot of nightclubs in the city. But
Yeah.
it also feels like at the same token, like the amount of corporate opportunities has risen because especially like when me and D Will were starting, I just don't remember like having we'd probably get like an all star or something. But even around that time, it was usually people bringing their own DJs in from out of town
Yep.
for the events.
Hmm.
And now it seems like the corporate opportunities are coming and they're looking for the DJs. So I guess it's a dual question because the second part I want to lead into like an advertising question. Um, do you think that how do you feel like the lack of the venues now kind of impacts the nightlife scene? And as far as like the corporate opportunities go, what do you think or what do you guys do? And Fred, you can answer this too, both parts. But what do you guys do to separate yourselves to I guess get noticed by those type of opportunities to get them to come your way?
Ladies first.
Okay. Okay. Um, I think the venues are our constant losing of venues has a lot to do with just, the economy and the economics of things. And what it has done was pretty much centralize all of these group of people who are not used to being around each other or being like in these settings with each other. We're not spread out. So we don't have a lot of venues uptown or downtown or anywhere else. Like they're all kind of just you have a few in this area of the city, a few in that area of the city. Um so for us, especially as DJs, it's like where we're trying to redefine what home is, trying to keep up with the venues, and once a venue closed, how do we move to another venue, or move if we have a residency at one
Mm.
and it closes, how do we move that residency and it feels the same to another? But I think just us losing venues is really just in New Orleans. There's not a lot of money going around. Um, and our infrastructure is not all that it's not all that good anymore. And then also we used to get a lot of tours down here, which brought in people. So the loss of us not having like touring acts coming down, uh, it takes away money from the city and money from the venues and the possibility of them making money
Mm.
by people coming into the city, touring and bringing in fans. And then we lost like two festivals too. And that brought people into the city. And New Orleans is big on tourism, so if we don't have if we don't have attractions for people to come to anymore, then we're missing that money that we used to have, and it directly shows within our venues them closing down.
Okay.
I would say for me, right? 2016 is when I started seeing the shift um, in the loss of venues and just also the politics within like the ownership or the promoters, right? And so I started to realize that these owners, and promoters, they're at the point to where they're gonna get a DJ for the same night and bring them in for residency at a cheaper rate, like pretty much, a third, a quarter of what they were paying like someone like myself, right? And when I started to see that, that's whenever I made the decision to go ahead and escape that and to go right back into weddings, right? And that's whenever I started, hearing from my peers like, "Hey, man, I ain't seen you on the scene or anything like that, right? Are you still DJing?" I'm like, "I'm DJing a lot, but
I definitely put an
I'm moving."
ATV out on that boy.
Like I was really moving in silence, right? And then it was, a lot of the I have NDAs, from on my contracts, for my clients a lot of times, so I'm doing a lot of weddings that I can't really post, reels and things about, but I was still in the scene, and I was like watching all my, my friends, that I was close with in the DJ scene, pretty much scattered around and trying to find something. And it got to the point to where, like, one DJ will lose a residency. And it's like they want to get a residency elsewhere, but their friend is a resident DJ there. So it's like you don't want to step on nobody's toes. So I also started seeing whenever the collaboration of DJs, veteran DJs bringing on new DJs to, have the opportunity to, to share that moment and give them that opportunity, but also trying to show them the way of make sure you're monetizing it the right way, because you don't want to take that revenue away from the DJ community when we already see there's people against what we're doing, but they still want, us to be entertainers, right?
Hmm.
um, I'll go back around because I want to ask this question again. I'll start with D-Will. Because I noticed this too. So doing so many weddings and corporate events, right? Especially when I was doing like black weddings and stuff. Say oh eight to like I say upwards to like 15, 16. It was kind of like traditionally how you would view a wedding to go. Like everybody being there. You just play the music, and majority of the time during dinner time, people just sitting down. It wasn't really too much about the dance floor, but you wanted people to get on the dance floor, right? I'd say within the past decade, there's been like this complete shift as like the new younger 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds now they want their wedding to basically be a
A party.
nightclub.
Yep.
So what was that? Was that shocking to you? And because to me, it made me feel like more. It actually made like even want to do more weddings because now it's like you're not really losing that aspect of the nightclub life going into corporate and wedding DJing. And I've actually seen like we were talking like the closing of venues. I've seen people who were professional like lifetime nightlife DJs who was like I'll never touch a wedding in my life. Like now they're the ones kind of rocking a lot of weddings, right? So
Mm.
all right, that's a 15-minute timer, baby. So I guess like how did that shift affect you?
For me, I think it wasn't a shift being in New Orleans. It was a difference from coming from Dallas to New Orleans, right? But I'll say for me, I didn't really see a big of a shift because like I became a certified wedding planner in 2007, so I understood the scope of the whole thing. So whenever I meet with my clients, I always suggest that, hey, this is your night. I'm not a big fan of doing traditional weddings, right? But also about 70% of my weddings I do, they're destination weddings. So people are coming from all over the world and all over the country to New Orleans to have it. So they are looked to have a party, and so that always felt natural for me, right? And so whenever I have, I add that nightlife, twist to a wedding that people probably had never seen before, it just made me want to do more and more and more. And that was one of the reasons why I always made sure that I put, that content out there, to show these people who were only going to these weddings that were traditional. Everyone sitting down for dinner. And so I'll go and suggest, hey, let's spread these tables out from the jump because people gonna be out here dancing,
Right.
from after you have your formalities and stuff, people are ready. And most of the times, I have the clients they're on the dance floor before the bride and groom is actually introduced
Right.
at the reception because they're ready to come in, right? They want the energy. But I mean, I can't see how it was a big shift for those who didn't experience that, right? Who always experienced that people sitting down at dinner time. Like you said, during the 08 to 2015, 2016. But for me personally, I never really experienced it like that living here. But I did see how it was different from doing a lot of traditional weddings in Dallas,
Mhm.
then coming over here to see like, okay, this nightlife city in the weddings.
Yeah, and I mean, even with the not to say the entire night for the wedding was just sit down, hear R&B music in the background. It was always like, all right, this is the last hour. We gonna turn up for real.
Hmm.
Now it's kind of like, yo, we don't want nobody sitting down. As soon as we going from go, we want formalities done in the first 20 minutes.
Right.
Zoom.
Knock it out.
Yeah. So Fred, with that, because you said you started with the Jig Aerobics program, so that's already kind of like a high intensity thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, is that something that you brought along with you into your nightlife set? Like, how did the Jig Aerobics, the stuff you were doing at that, like, kind of set you up for these nightlife gigs, and how much of that is transferable?
Um, a good bit of it can be transferable, kind of regionally, and I say regionally because it helps a lot in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and really in the South. But sometimes when we travel other places, I have to
You gotta
incorporate other
you
things.
gotta say
But I feel
Southeast
like
region.
yeah, but I feel like all in all, it didn't really just help me with nightlife. It helped
Mm,
me with just DJing as a whole because it prepared me to be versatile. Like we have a lot of we work with senior citizens and we work with kindergartners. So I'm
mm,
saying that to say it prepared me to do family reunions. I was ready to take it there when it was time to do nightlife things. It prepared me to be able to take
mm,
people in different places with music in a condensed amount of time because I always had to appeal to a large like a wide audience.
mm.
So, like I said, we'll have little kids and old people, and we trying to get them moving and grooving in the same place. So I'm trying to balance the two. But when I come out to nightlife spaces and I see DJs get caught up in trying to balance like things like that, is already natural to me because that's pretty much all I do. So just being able to play for a wide audience and move different people at the same time has been the most transferable skill.
Okay. Fred kind of touched on this earlier, but I kind of want Legs and D-Will's opinion on this. Um, Going from nightlife is kind of skittish and kind of all over the place. Like when you become the LLC, the actual business, things
Hmm.
have to get like things get real when you start talking about, oh, I need a tax ID number and stuff like that. What was that like for you guys moving from just kind of like the nightlife gigs or like the yeah, I'll come to your party, it's just cash, to being like, oh shit, I got to be like a full fledged like business. I got to have all this in order.
Well, I just hope the IRS ain't listening. But no, but for me, so October 30th, 2009 is whenever I had made my LLC.
Mm,
So I did that purposely because I knew that there were going to be times where, having residencies, they were trying to pay me under, the table in cash, you know, or I'm like, let's have to go straight to my business, because I don't want you to try to say later on down the line, oh, you got to pay these taxes on all that money we gave you, right?
yeah.
So I was always already prepared. I had a conversation with my aunt when I
Mhm.
first moved down here. She said, Darius, you got to go ahead and get your LLC because you don't want to get screwed in the business, But it also gave me an opportunity to, like, when I'm not working with businesses, right? I'm doing these weddings. They can pay me, to Darius, but there's also those, clients that I do weddings for. They say, hey, we want to have this, going towards the tax. So like, I need your tax ID number. So it'll be booked in the D-Will's Entertainment.
Mm.
So I had to be prepared from the jump. I moving down here to
Mm.
New Orleans. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I don't know much going on, but let's go ahead and have this already in line because I knew that this is gonna be longevity for me. It was never a hobby.
Right,
So
right, right. Legs.
I got my LLC, I think, like 2021, either 2020 or 2021. Um, and really, I wanted to get it because it got to a point where I just wanted to feel legitimate as like a legitimate business entity, and because I do so many things under my brand, like my umbrella,
Mm,
that I needed something that will protect my business, like whether I'm DJing, whether I'm doing costume design, whether I'm working on films, or whether I'm throwing parties, all that thing, all of those things, booking people. um clothing, like all of that will be in one, just so like I have my business like in order and make sure my business is protected, especially after starting to get a lot of corporate gigs where they want you they you gotta send them a W-9
Yeah.
or whatever, and the W-9 it got my name on it or whatever. So it's like, no, I need them to also see that this is a legit business as well.
I guess because Fred spoke on this from the other side. So what was the relief when y'all started getting these corporate gigs and you didn't have to chase nobody down
That
for your money, man?
they pay on time. They
They
pay
got
on
look.
time.
They
You're
have.
not running behind nobody for your money.
Mm,
It ain't, oh, I could give you this much this day and I can give you another this day. Nope. They will send, what's your invoice? Can we make it payable out too? This is what you need. Send it in. Cool.
bro,
And
they
you either you'll get your money. You get your money guaranteed. Now the
Look,
next
you
15s
getting
and the
paid
next
before.
30s and
oh
that.
yeah,
Sometimes you get paid before.
Oh
Like
yeah,
Yeah.
if y'all
yeah,
love
you
me
get paid
real bad,
before straight up.
I'm showing out for y'all. I'm
oh
doing
yeah,
But
everything for
they
y'all.
also have a budget, right? They have a
And
certain
they
amount
have
that
a
they have to
budget.
spend. That they
right.
have to
Have
spend. Like
to.
they're like, you can go say, "Oh, I do it for 3,500." But like, no, we got 7,000 for you.
Yeah,
Like we have to like
we gotta
Yeah.
spend this.
And
get
they
it
That
gotta
actually
spend
right.
it.
happened to me my first time. When I first started in the corporate like doing corporate work, I was sophomore in college. I threw out like $700 thinking I was charging a lot. And it was like, that's it? And I was like,
You know
What
it.
do you mean by
You know
that?
it. And hey,
so like you said, they when they got the budget, they'll throw it at you for sure.
Yeah, and
and
they always got the budget. They always have
Yeah.
the bread.
in
Always
corporate
have the bread.
in corporate speak, if you ever send somebody a number and they say that's it and respond to you too quick, you done left a shit ton of money on the table, boy.
Man, so, I remember in 2007, my old manager when I was working for a DJ company, and he was like, if people are never saying no, that means your rate's too low.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Yep.
so,
Yep. That's
so
good advice.
Okay.
That's good advice.
All right. I don't know how much longer the timer got, so I got one more question. Just for everybody, what is one piece of advice? Because we've all like kind of been there. Like, what would you say is the biggest thing to help people who kind of want to get out of nightlife or are looking to get into like these corporate and wedding situations as a DJ?
I mean, I'll say just continue to apply yourself, right? But also be who you are. Don't try to emulate anybody else, all right? And people will find you, all right? But you do have to do the work. You can't just, feel like someone's just gonna find you off of one video, right? But don't feel like you have to oversaturate or trying to do something that the other person is doing, all right?
Yeah.
And that's how I've been, right? Even whenever everybody thought I had fell off the face of the earth, I was being myself, and I was able to elevate and put my family in a different position than we were gonna be in.
Yeah.
Um, I'll go next. I'll say don't be afraid to look in different places for success. And I'm saying that to say like I found mine with a fitness company in college. Like that's not necessarily a traditional route.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid to look outside the box, look in different places to find success, and also to be aware of your presence. Like you can't really go around corporate people thinking that you can move the same way you move in nightlife. So just be aware of your presence and don't be afraid to look in different places.
I would say for me, because I kind of teeter the line. I don't do many weddings, um, but I when I do weddings, I take them based on um if the couple is like the right fit for me. As far as corporate events, like Fred said, don't go around them people acting crazy. Thinking you could do what you do in the clubs that you can do in a corporate space, but also, like D-Will said, being authentic and being yourself, but also putting in that groundwork so you can be put in those positions and you succeed and they know why they chose you as the DJ. Um and yeah, just to have fun with it. Sometimes I feel like I'm a personality hire. They like my personality. And more than they like me DJing, sometimes like but they love me DJing, but also I have a good personality, I have a good attitude. I'm very hospitable. Always make sure you talk to everybody, no matter if it's the wait staff, no matter if it's your if it's the person who asking you if you need something, or the photographer or anybody, just make sure you're hospitable, you're always kind, and you come with your best foot forward so you can do the best job that you can so they can book you again.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate y'all. This time is running out, and I'm not paying the $5. So,
He ain't got
no, I'm not. Second time today. Now, I appreciate y'all. My name is Spin Griffey. This is DJ D-Will, DJ Legatron Prime over here. DJ Fred. I think Fred might have frozen. I don't know. But this is behind. I don't know, man. This is behind the booth. Appreciate y'all for coming on, man. I got 3 minutes. So if y'all want to shout anything out or just let people know where to find y'all, go ahead.
okay.
I'm gonna keep mine simple. Go ahead, Electron. Go ahead,
Oh, I'm
ladies.
sorry. You can follow me on Instagram, Legatron Prime. Legatron Prime. Uh, Also, where my girls at NOLA.
Yeah.
Also clublegs.universe, and also Girls World, GRLZWRLD. Those are all of my initiatives, all of my brands. That's me, that's for homegirl, that's family. So yeah.
I'll go next. Y'all can follow me on Instagram at King Fred, KVNGFRED, King Fred. And if you like sports, y'all can check out my sports podcast on YouTube called Who That Josin', everything Louisiana based sports, you dig?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna keep mine real simple. I only use one Instagram. It's DJ D-Will, DWILL.com, DOTCOM. So DJDWill.com. For all your wedding needs, I'm your guy.
All right, man. Once again, appreciate y'all, man. Definitely gonna have all of y'all back on different dates. I'm Spin Griffey. This is Behind the Booth, and we appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.